Hello and welcome to My Karate, My Life. I'm Chrissy Howard. This podcast is a space for stories, lessons and reflections from a lifetime of karate. I've spent over 4 decades training, teaching and learning, not just how to move but how to grow. And through that time I've come to realise that karate is never just about technique, it's about who you become along the way. In this podcast I'll be sharing personal stories from my journey, the challenges, the doubts, the lessons that have stayed with me and the moments that shaped not only my karate but my life. We'll talk about confidence, about fear, about resilience and about what it really means to keep going even when things feel difficult. Some episodes will be quiet reflections, some will be lessons from the dojo and some will be conversations with others walking their own martial path. This isn't about being the best, it's about showing up, learning and continuing, no matter where you are on your journey. Whether you've trained for years or you've never stepped into a dojo, I hope something here speaks to you. So thank you for being here and I look forward to sharing this journey with you. Hello and welcome to the My Karate, My Life podcast. I'm Chrissy Howard and this is episode 14. So if we include intro week, I've been jibber-jabbering away on a weekly basis for the last 15 weeks. Interesting for somebody that didn't used to have a voice. Suddenly I appear to have found it. Next week I'm taking a break. I've had a really hectic schedule recently and I'm taking 3 whole days off of everything. And I don't want to put myself under any pressure when I return. So I'm going to have a break next week. So this episode will be airing on the 7th of July. There'll be no episode on the 9th of July. And I'll return with an episode on the 16th of July. So last week I had an anniversary. It was 38 years since I passed my black belt. I have no idea where the 38 years have gone, but 38 years since passing my black belt, 43 years of holding the hand of karate. So 38 years ago, just over now, when I was stood in front of Aiden Trimble Sensei in 1988, I genuinely thought that earning my black belt meant I had arrived somewhere. I guess like many young karateka, I imagined that it was a destination. I'd reached my goal. And I wasn't wrong in a way because my goal had been to reach my black belt. But really I couldn't have been more wrong. On reflection, I know it certainly wasn't the end of my learning. If anything, it was the beginning. And with it came responsibility. The responsibility to train even harder, to represent my club well, my parents well, to continue studying, to keep improving. If I'm honest though, I was a little bit sad. I loved being a brown belt. Truly, I really loved being a brown belt. I loved how it had faded. I'd washed it a million times. Most people would say never wash your belt, but I washed mine frequently. I was a little sad to even give it up. It was the grade I'd held the longest before my black belt, and it felt familiar, and I was quite comfortable just before the end of the lineup. But then almost without noticing, being a black belt gradually led me towards teaching. Back then, I thought being an instructor was mostly about knowledge and status. Did I know enough? Was I elevated enough? Could I explain a kata properly? Could I teach all the other stuff? Timing, power, balance and distance. Everything that wraps us up as a whole-rounded karateka. Even now, though, those questions haven't completely disappeared. Every time I teach a kata or even an element of karate, I feel the weight of responsibility because I'm not simply showing someone where to put their hands and feet. I feel that I'm helping shape the way another human being understands their karate. And modern neuroscience, well, that tells us that our brains are constantly learning by observation through what are often called mirror neuron systems. We begin mapping movements simply by watching another person perform them. I can relate to that massively because I am an observational learner. Sit down and talk to me about something, I won't have a clue what you're going on about, but let me watch you and I'll understand. So how I demonstrate my karate matters. If I demonstrate it carelessly, perhaps they, my students, will learn carelessly. If I demonstrate with intention, calmness and respect, hopefully they'll absorb those qualities too. In Budo, we often hear the phrase Shin-Gi-Tai, mind, technique and body. It's also a title of a really good book that I've read. But in this instance, Shin-Gi-Tai, mind, technique and body, the three cannot really be separated. A kata isn't simply movement, it's a way of thinking through expressed movement. If I only teach the technique, I've probably missed the most important lesson. Of course, technique matters, but so does timing, so does power. Balance matters. How we bury our karate down into our stances and out through our kinetic chain, that matters. But they aren't the only things that make someone a good teacher. Having that knowledge aren't the only things that make somebody a good teacher. The older I become, the more I believe that teaching is less about transferring information and perhaps more about becoming a guardian of another person's wishes, their wishes to become a great karateka. It's a heavy load to carry, and of course I'm thinking about all of the things I had wished for in a teacher as a much younger person, and I'm trying to personify that too. For a long time, if I'm honest, I carried the responsibility of fear too. Not carrying the responsibility of fear, but carrying the responsibility with fear. I still do, a little bit, but not as much as I used to. People often tell me I look confident, and it's a lovely compliment. But the reality has often been very different. Like many people, I've lived with anxiety. For years I questioned whether I was good enough. Still do. Whether I was saying the right thing, whether the students deserve someone better, whether I was letting them down. Truthfully, that's how I felt and sometimes still feel. Part of me still asks those questions. But every day I strive to be a better instructor, better than I was yesterday. Right now I'm a little excited because I'm working towards a future where I can study, train and teach karate full time. After 43 years of training, 38 years as a black belt, countless lessons, a few wrong turns, and not always knowing where life was leading me, I've come to realise that my purpose has been with me all along. I just couldn't see it. Perhaps that was because I didn't truly believe I was enough, or that a life centred around karate could ever be possible. Could it? I mean, it has for other people. So why not me? Karate was my first love. Looking back, it has always been about karate. It has quietly shaped who I am, carried me through difficult times and given me direction when I needed it most. I'd even argue, a bit like Amazing Grace, where I was once lost but now am found. Karate has found me when I have been lost. It's redirected me. It's made me stand up tall again when I've felt slumped. So my love for karate is one I intend to hold on to with both hands. Psychologists have talked about something called the negative bias. Our brains evolved to notice mistakes much more readily than success because thousands of years ago, missing a threat could cost us our lives. Unfortunately, that same brain now causes many instructors to replay one mistake while completely overlooking the 100 of things that went well. I know that feeling very well. I drive home replaying one correction I wished I'd explained better, while completely forgetting the smiles, the laughter, the breakthroughs, the confidence that quietly grew during the lesson. For me, over the last few years, something has shifted. I don't know exactly when. I didn't suddenly become fearless. The anxiety didn't disappear. But the joy, well, that has become louder than the fear. I've challenged myself to record this podcast, to put videos online, to speak more openly. Not because I think I've got everything right, or I've suddenly become the most confident person I know. Of course not. But because I'm learning to recognise that perhaps there is value in what I have to offer too. Confidence, well, I've realised it isn't something we're born with. Confidence is evidence collected over time. Every difficult thing we survive, every lesson we teach despite feeling nervous, every grading, every conversation, our brains store all of this as experience. Neuroscientists would call this neuroplasticity. Our brains literally change according to what we repeatedly experience, which means courage isn't really a personality trait. It's a practice. We rehearse it. Perhaps that's why karate works so well. We don't become brave because somebody tells us to be brave. In fact, sometimes when I'm talking to my students about going into a new situation and I can see they're nervous, they tell me they're afraid, I'll say, just do it. Be brave, be courageous. We become brave because every lesson quietly proves that we're capable of doing difficult things. This is similar to a conversation I had with a student. Going back to what I just said, I had this conversation just last week about competition anxiety and stress. My thoughts were, somehow you just have to go. You just have to go out and do it again and again. It's the only way. Survival of the exposure is what leads the brain to know that it's okay to do this. And when you do it, you survive it. And that offers your brain the evidence that it needs. You know the rest. So maturity, well, perhaps that isn't an absence of fear. Perhaps it's simply refusing to let fear have the final word. So now when I stand up in front of a class, I notice the things I once missed. The child who walks through the door standing just a little bit taller than they did 6 months ago. The teenager who finally feels like they belong. The adult who arrives carrying the weight of the week and leaves with a smile. Those moments, of course, don't appear on grading certificates. They don't earn trophies. But they might just be the one most important thing that karate gives us. I'm not a parent. I don't have my own children's. I don't love my students in the way that their parents do. Nor should I. That isn't my role. But over time, something else develops. A quiet fondness, a genuine care. Trust, of course, has a remarkable way of creating connection. And psychology tells us that trust forms the foundation of secure relationships. When people repeatedly experience safety, consistency, encouragement, the nervous system will begin to relax. Learning accelerates and confidence grows. People become willing to attempt things they once thought impossible. Every bow at the beginning of the class, in some small way, is an agreement that I trust you to guide me. I trust you to challenge me. I trust you not to humiliate me. That trust is never something I take lightly. Perhaps because I know how easily confidence can be damaged. The Japanese word rei is often translated simply as bow, but I think it means much more than that. It represents respect, gratitude, humility. It represents an acknowledgement that teacher and student are both about to learn together. I've become less interested in students who bow perfectly, and much more interested in students who understand why they bow. Etiquette without understanding is simply habit. I don't insist that my students call me sensei, but I observe their presentation and behaviour. I observe how they behave towards me and how they behave around others in the dojo. Etiquette with understanding becomes character. And over years I've realised that no two students walk through the dojo doors for exactly the same reason. Some think they want to learn to punch really hard. Some want to get fit by performing something they think they might enjoy. Some seek discipline. Some are carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, or others simply walking alongside grief. Some might be escaping bullying. Some simply want somewhere that they feel accepted. They're looking for a community. Many never tell you the reason why they came in the first place. Sometimes they don't even know themselves. Whatever the reason though, I feel responsible for ensuring my dojo is a place where everyone feels safe, where everyone feels like they belong. That means teaching cannot simply become delivering the same lesson to every person. It does mean, though, that the playing field should remain level and it's an access for all environment, despite the set level of someone's ability. There's no elitism, I guess. I don't want elitism in my dojo. I want everyone to feel that regardless of ability, they're operating on a level playing field. They're as important as the elite. There is a Budo philosophy that many of you will be familiar with. Well, some of you, maybe not many of you. That being Shu-Ha-Ri. First we copy, then we question, and finally we discover our own authentic expression. As instructors, perhaps we should do the same. We shouldn't prescribe one path. We should evolve with each individual. Another principle I love is Mushin, often translated as no fixed mind. People usually associate it with fighting. I think it applies equally to teaching. If I arrive believing everyone should learn exactly the same way, then perhaps my own thinking has become rigid. Some students need encouragement, some need challenge, some patience, some silence. Some simply need somewhere where someone who will quietly believe in them. Quietly believe in them until they are perhaps ready to believe in themselves. So those things I think demand my attention. They demand my presence and my empathy. And sometimes high expectations. People occasionally tell me I'm demanding. They're probably right. But I don't demand more because I want perfection. I demand more because I often see something in my students before they see it in themselves. Referring back to psychology, well, psychologists describe something called the Pygmalion Effect. When someone genuinely believes another person is capable of growth, that person often performs better. Not because of magic, but because belief subtly changes the way we encourage, the way we challenge, the way we teach. Belief becomes contagious. I often tell my students that standards are not the opposite of kindness. They are an expression of kindness. If I didn't believe someone could improve, I'd probably stop correcting them. The correction says, I believe there's more in you. The important thing is how that correction is delivered. Strength without compassion becomes dominance. Compassion without standards becomes complacency. Somewhere between the two, I think, is good teaching. People often thank me for teaching them. The truth is, they probably don't realise how much they are teaching me. Every question sends me back to my books. Every student makes me think differently. Every lesson deepens my own understanding. So after all these years, I don't think I've mastered karate. What I know is I probably never will. I feel like karate is still patiently teaching me all of the time. Psychology has discovered that people don't flourish because they're constantly praised. They flourish because they feel they belong. Belonging changes behaviour. It reduces anxiety. It increases motivation. It builds resilience. Looking back, I don't think I've been trying to create black belts. I've been trying to create a place where people feel they belong. Everything else seems to grow from there. Maybe that's karate's greatest gift. It teaches physical movements. Yes, but beneath every technique is character. Beneath every grading is resilience. Beneath every bow is humility. Beneath every lesson is a relationship. There's an old saying in Budo: the ultimate aim of martial arts is not victory over others, but victory over oneself. When I was younger, I thought that meant training harder. Now I think it means something deeper. Becoming a little more patient, a little more humble, listening better, judging less, finding the courage to remain a student, even after 43 years of training. Because perhaps that's the real lesson. There is no finish line, only another lesson. The greatest joy has never been earning belts, or collecting titles, or even improving my karate. It has been watching someone else discover that they are stronger than they believe themselves to be. I experience great joy in watching another human being grow. You don't own their journey. You simply have the privilege of walking beside them for part of it. Perhaps that's what a good instructor really is. Not someone who creates followers, someone who helps people become more of themselves. So today I'd like to leave you with two questions. Who believed in you before you believed in yourself? And perhaps even more importantly, who is quietly waiting for you to become that person for someone else? Thanks again for spending some time with me today. If today's reflections have stirred something inside of you, I hope you'll carry those thoughts into the week ahead. Whether you're a martial artist, a teacher, a coach, a parent, a leader, or simply someone trying to make a positive difference in another person's life, never underestimate the impact of your presence. We rarely remember those words every teacher says, or every word a teacher says. But what we never forget is how someone makes us feel, or how they helped us see something in ourselves that we couldn't yet see alone. Karate has given me far more than the physical elements. It's given me perspective, purpose, friendships, humility, and the quiet privilege of helping others discover what they are capable of. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd be grateful if you'd follow the podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. I'm not yet sure where this is going, or if it's having an impact on any of you, but I hope so. My intention is good, and I hope that sharing parts of the last half a century are of benefit to somebody. Until next time, keep training, keep learning, keep asking questions, and above all, keep becoming. I'm Chrissy Howard. This has been episode 14 of My Karate, My Life podcast.